So if you haven't heard already, the iPad is getting a huge update with iPadOS 26, where basically it will function a whole lot more like a traditional desktop. So basically, now when we go and we open an application, we'll see that it opens up in its regular mode. But the cool thing is that now we can just drag any part of our screen to size down our application and it becomes a window. Then we can also just drag out any of our other applications. So let's say if I wanted a reference, I would just open up my other app, just click on it, and it will open up in a windowed mode. And the cool thing is that now, rather than having all these set sizes, just like three different set sizes where you can drag your window, you have so many sizes and it can expand vertically or horizontally as well, and it will still function perfectly. And on top of that, we also get these options here at the top of all of our windows. If we drag down, where we have a few helpful shortcuts just like we would on a computer, we have undo and redo on every application. And the cool thing is that developers are going to be able to add to these shortcuts as iPadOS 26 gets further and more developers have access to edit all these things. So that's going to be a very cool update. As you can also see on my home screen, I have an army of apps at the bottom right now. So we just have a ton more space down there and we can add tons and tons of apps. I could even go crazy and keep adding more down there if I wanted to. Yep. And really fill this thing out. It just keeps getting smaller. Another cool thing we can do now is we can go to the Files app. And as you can see automatically, I have these different colored folders to help me distinguish like different types of folders that I use on my day-to-day. Another cool thing we can do is we can actually put our folders or files directly in our taskbar so we can easily access them. So let's say this is a folder I have for references, right? So I could click add to and then click doc. And then when I come down here, I can access this folder directly from the dock. So how about I go into, let me go into Procreate, and in Procreate, I'll just click on my folder and I'll drag in a reference. And then we have a super quick import right there. So that's just another really cool, dope thing about iPadOS 26. Another cool thing that I can't personally use myself is we can now have multiple audio sources. So you can use a Bluetooth microphone. Specifically, you can't use a wired microphone. And it will use a different audio source than, like, let's say your headphones. So it won't use your headphones as a mic instead of your actual microphone. Unfortunately, this doesn't currently work with wired microphones or those ones that you plug in that are wireless. Hopefully, I hope that one comes and fixes up a few of the issues on iPadOS 26. Aside from that, something cool we also have is a games app. And we can just access all of our games from this app now, which is really cool. We can even go down and invite our friends from our contacts to play games with us if they have the same games. And we can also see it includes Apple Arcade. And then the coolest thing is we can just go to this library, which is kind of like the console or like Steam, where you just can access all your games from one list. So that's really dope. Additionally to that, apps can now perform in the background of your iPad way better, where they can do background processes. So for example, something that it can do now is we can render out videos and then go to another app and do whatever we need to do and then come back to our video editor and our files will be rendered. Another implementation of this I saw is when I go on Fortnite and then I turn off Fortnite, it goes into a sleep mode and it basically reserves battery. So that's something cool that I personally saw myself. I'm yet to check out the rendering. Now, if we ever want to go back to the apps we've been using, we can always just click into our app like we used to. But something we can also do now is we can set Stage Manager on. And when we use Stage Manager, it still uses this new system of windowing, but we can set up multiple different groups of how our windows are organized. So let's say I could have Infinite Painter open, and then VisRef was here. I can drag it over, and I have these two windows in the same group of tabs that I'm using together. Or I could do Procreate, and then I could do Games. And I could just keep dragging different apps into here and have them all work together. And we could have multiple apps full screen, they'll just go to the background. So this is really cool, and this is functional with every app to my knowledge, unlike it was in our previous iPadOS version. Now this is a public beta, but so there are a few bugs and it does get the iPad a little hot at times, but it works pretty well altogether. I believe this should be out by September is when people are estimating. Now for the last part of this, we're going to check out how iPadOS performs on the external monitor now, because we also have support for that on any M series iPad. Unfortunately, they still did not bring external monitor support to iPads that aren't M series iPads. But all these tabbing and multitasking features aside from external monitor, while I go on my and then I could go on the external monitor and I could bring up DaVinci so I could do some video editing. So there's not too many changes to the external monitor support truly, but just the fact that we have Windows alone will very much help the usability of these apps on the external monitor, because before it felt like I wouldn't even say a beta, it felt more like an alpha, because there would be a lot of crashing, a lot of improper sizing of apps, and those are still here, to be honest, but they just work so much better when they can be windowed and they can be resized to any size. And then we also have the ability to just click a button now and send it back to each screen if we want to. Unfortunately, I guess that's something that happens when you do it. Oh, and something I would just like to point out is that gaming on the external monitor looks so beautiful coming from an iPad screen, but unfortunately we still can't extend a lot of these games fully. They just stay the same resolution as an iPad game, so we can't bring them widescreen. There are a few games that I have been able to bring widescreen, but sometimes they look a little blurry, so that's very unfortunate. That's the end of this demo, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please like and subscribe. I'll be back with more. Enjoy.